Welcome back, everybody, to Film Buzz, a show where we talk about what's buzzing in film today. Who's your favorite serial killer ever? Is it Ted Bundy? Is it Charles Manson? That guy was influential. He never killed anybody. He just had people kill him for him. He probably read that book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. Or is it Jeffrey Dahmer, that really wretched last guy who did the horrible act of eating the people that he killed? Good Lord. Ted Bundy especially was one really attractive guy. Not really, though. I think I've done a lot of thinking about this, and I think it has to be the killing. It has to be the murder, right? If you like Ted Bundy, which all of us do, you'll be excited for today's episode as we have Michael Werwie coming on, the illustrious, the beautiful, and the writer of the film Extremely Wicked, Shockingly Evil and Vile, starring Zac Efron and Lily Collins. Join us today on Film Buzz.
Zeek Colbert.
Yeah.
Hey, so how are you doing, buddy?
I'm good. I'm not good.
You're not good? Why'd you lie to me?
It's bad. It's a thing that you say to people when they ask you how you are.
Oh, you do just have to say you're good, even when you're not. Why are you not good?
I don't know, man. Recently moved, and it was a good thing.
Hey, that's a good thing.
Yeah. But I'm adjusting to the new life. You know?
Is that a bad thing?
Well, I'm adjusting to less people around me, you know?
Okay. Oh, you're feeling a little lonely?
Yeah, I feel a little lonely every now and then. Sebastian's away sometimes. You know?
Yeah. Hey, but I heard you got a part in a movie.
I got a part in I can't say the name, but it's a superhero movie.
Hey, cool.
A big budget. There's all kinds of things happening.
Are you a superhero?
No, I'm a guy who's tripping on acid. And I had one line in the movie.
Yeah.
And then I got on set, and then they gave me another line.
Hey!
So I have 2 lines.
Look at that, 2 lines.
Yeah,
in a
I have
superhero
100% line increase rate.
Well, hold on. You said you're not good, but those were like a couple good things right there.
I know.
Moved in a new place, got a new
I always thought
part.
when I would get a part, I'd feel happy, but no.
I saw a ladybug today.
That's nice.
Right.
How have you been? How's life been?
That's all. That was a high. That was it.
That was the high.
That's all I need.
So you must be really happy.
I am always happy all the time. I don't think I've ever felt sad, actually.
Yeah. So how's the groundlings going? Have you?
Oh yeah, doing level 1 basic core groundlings.
You're in?
Yeah.
Class?
You didn't know that? Yeah. I have
I
class
got
tomorrow
you
morning.
confused with my other friend. Funny story.
Tell me.
I used to bus tables, right, at a restaurant.
Is that how you did it?
Yeah.
All right.
Well, actually, I did it like this. But we came in late. I was hanging out with this guy's name was Daniel. I don't know what his last name was, but we're still friends. Me and Daniel come in, right? And we've been kayaking, and we're late. And the reason that we've been kayaking is because we wanted to kayak. But
that's a good reason.
But anyway, we're in the kayak, and we're rowing on the kayak, right? We're rowing on a kayak.
Yeah, together, one kayak.
Yeah, and he's scared, and he has these shoes on. He's got these like basketball shoes. He really likes like all these Nikes and stuff. He actually kind of got me into shoes, and I didn't think this was going to happen, but he was scared of tipping over. And then we were in this canal, and as we got closer to the ocean, a wave knocked us over. So he was hanging onto the kayak for dear life, and he couldn't swim and stuff, right? Mm-hmm. And we were really scared. I was scared for him. I thought we were going to die. And the current was actually pulling us out to the ocean, and there was no way to get up on land because it was all people's docks and stuff. Mm-hmm. And then this family sees that we're struggling, and they get on this huge yacht, and they come and they put us on the yacht, and then they drive us back all the way down the canal to my house, and then we're late to work. We're like an hour late to work, and we come to work, and I start telling everybody that works at the restaurant what happened. And then this is a good example of how word gets around in a restaurant, you know? Everybody tells a different version of the story, and then I'm on my way out of the restaurant, the chef comes up to me, and he goes, "Hey, I heard you guys were out, and then that you fell in the ocean in the kayak, and then a flipper dolphin came and it pushed you onto the shore."
But that didn't happen.
No, it was a boat. Stay tuned for Michael Werwie on Film Buzz. And welcome Michael Werwie. Hey!
Hey guys.
How you doing?
I'm well, thank you for having me.
No, thank you for coming on. Yeah. So as Erik was saying, your posture is going to make us all look really lazy.
Imagine that's professional writing posture, right? When you're
it's
sitting.
It's a lot of hours at the desk for sure.
Yeah. How long is a writing session usually for you?
A good one would be like 2 or 3 hours. Like I try to do first thing in the morning. If I'm lucky, I'll go like today I went 4 or 5 hours. I try to work till about lunch or so. I'm pretty worthless in the afternoon, so I get it in the morning. But sometimes honestly it's like 20 minutes. I've been doing that since I graduated college, really, and so I made it a habit a long time ago. And just if I take a vacation and don't do that, then it's harder to get back to it.
Right.
Yeah.
So on vacation you practice the
I
work
try to
ethic?
write every day. Yeah.
On vacation?
Usually, not always.
That's
Okay.
commitment.
That's
Yeah.
discipline.
Habit. Yeah. Where are you from?
Born and raised in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Gotcha. Dahmer country.
Dahmer country.
Yeah.
When did you come out here?
I moved out here to go to college. I went to USC.
Oh, okay.
I did not major in film, actually. It was one of my minors, but I minored in business, actually.
When did you first take an interest in show business or the film industry?
We were a movie family growing up. And my parents took us to movies all the time. We had every VHS from the 80s and 90s, every movie that was family friendly. And I just watched a ton of stuff. And I started like drawing stories before I knew how to spell. So I was an artist as a kid. Drawing, my favorite movie was Jaws. So I drew a lot of shark
Nice.
attack story.
Nice.
And I always wanted to be a writer, and so I knew from an early age that movies were written, and that was the path that I wanted to take.
Do you have a hobby? I hear that all artists should have hobbies.
That's not work related, right? Something completely outside of the industry.
Yeah, I mean, I love working out. I love like getting out of the house and just being active and around people. So going to the gym is a big thing for me. My girlfriend and I go hiking a lot. Just getting out into nature is really healthy. I love like drawing and painting. I don't need another solitary hobby right now. So
Like another artisty thing.
Right. So I do that occasionally. I used to like play guitar and everything like that.
Nice.
But again, I'm trying not to do things where I'm alone too much because my job is so solitary by necessity.
Right.
And I like that, but to a certain extent. You know?
What are you working on now? Are you allowed to say?
I'm writing something new. It's a spec script for myself. It's like in the action thriller genre. I'll say that.
Okay.
It's,
Yeah, I understand from executive producer Lilly O'Brien that you were in the action kind of genre before the Ted Bundy film.
Kind of. When I was like up and coming, I was writing like every genre under the sun. And I was working on what I thought was going to be my break-in script, which is like a big, stupid action movie.
Right.
And I just didn't care. Well, anyway, the point being, I never finished that script.
I see.
What happened was I got distracted by just reading a book and not working. And that book happened to be about Ted Bundy, and I went down the rabbit hole at that point.
I have a question for you. Who's your favorite serial killer ever? Ted Kaczynski? That's a good one. That's a Unabomber. Oh, you don't know. Good guy. Attractive guy. How about you, man? Do you have a favorite serial killer?
Ted Bundy?
Ted Bundy. He's attractive, right? He's a good-looking guy. Yeah, but I wonder what is it about Ted Bundy and women? Because you look at the guy, he's not that attractive.
You know, that's the eternal question. I mean, there's varied opinions on that, but I think the fact that it was the first kind of nationally televised trial, he was charismatic, he was funny, he understood how to manipulate the audience out there. He was kind of the first reality TV star before that was a thing. He understood media, he understood he was in people's living rooms because that court case was the first time they allowed cameras.
Right. How much of the dialogue in the film would you say is real? Not most of it, huh?
Definitely not most of it. I mean, a lot of the court stuff is authentic. But there's, from the last trial alone in Florida, I think there's something like 40,000 pages of transcripts. You find the turning points narratively of what's interesting, and you have to consolidate that into something that makes sense.
Right.
Did you go through that?
All
No,
40,000?
You're like, no, I skimmed it.
I tried to order them. You can order them through public records, but
Yeah.
the printing and shipping of it at the time was because it's not digitized. And, it was way too expensive. But there's a lot that is available, and just pouring through as much as possible, and through all the books that have been written about the trial, you know the turning points, and to hone in on that and ask yourself what dramatically works with the character story that you're telling at the same time.
Right. That conversation at the end between Bundy and his girlfriend.
Yeah.
Was that part of her book, or was this a choice by you?
Her book ends when he's in Colorado, I believe. There's two components to that scene narratively, right? There is the admission of guilt, and there's the hacksaw moment.
Right.
They're both real incidents, they just didn't happen like that simultaneously at the same time.
Uh-huh.
So he confessed to her on a phone call. In the movie, she gets a call in her kitchen. That's actually where he kind of admits to everything. The hacksaw moment happens with a police officer years later. And he's admitting to a crime as he's trying to talk his way out of execution. One of the liberties we took was combining those two moments so that the emotional truth was still preserved, but we got a dramatic bang at the end.
Yeah, I thought it was such an interesting take on a serial killer movie that there's nobody gets killed the whole time.
That was what, I mean, my approach to the story was not to write a Ted Bundy story or a true crime story. It was to write a love story where can I make the reader fall in love with somebody that you know is ultimately a monster?
And you kind of did. I think I was very impressed by Zac Efron because I thought that he does pull off like the narcissist chronic liar thing. There's moments where he's riling up the courthouse and he really just seems like a hero and and then she's watching him with her new boyfriend on the TV and you can tell that the new boyfriend's jealous and she's like reminded of all the things she loved about him and stuff.
Crazy. I mean, I have to give all the credit to Zac on that one. The skill set he has coming from his comedy background, with his public persona, with just his raw talent. I mean, it was the perfect fusion of everything, and it just worked.
Was Zac your choice to play Ted Bundy, or did you have different choices for who you wanted to play him?
Zac was all of our choices in the end. I wrote the script in 2010, and it kind of like blew up in 2012.
So you didn't imagine Zac Efron in 2010 Zac Efron playing Ted Bundy?
2010 Zac Efron
as like a 14-year-old.
I think the script had come together and fallen apart a few times over the last.
I heard it was on something called the Hollywood Blacklist or something. Script Blacklist.
It was on the Blacklist, which is like an annual most liked list of unproduced scripts.
Right.
Like The Social Network was on that.
Oh, wow.
Juno was on that. The King's Speech. I mean, there's like a million great movies that have come from that list. And I honestly thought the project was dead for quite a while. And then we got this random call that Zac had read it, Joe had read it, and we had financing all within 2 weeks. 6 months later, we were shooting. So
wow.
It was a 9-year process, ultimately, from writing the script to
Lilly actually mentioned to me that in the original script, you don't know it's Ted Bundy until later. Yeah. That's like a twist in the script, but in the movie... Yeah. It's sold, from the beginning it's Ted Bundy. Do you feel disappointed that it had to be kind of sold with the name of Ted Bundy, or did you... Is that not a big deal? Is it like a little thing to you?
I couldn't be prouder of the movie.
Yeah.
The script was originally written with that intention to have the twist, but in this day and age it's just not possible, and it suddenly became known as the Ted Bundy script. It's unfortunate because I think that was part of the magic of the script going around. People read so much in this town that even if they were aware of it at one point, they kind of forget as they're reading it. And I remember my first agent told me when he first read the script, this is before he had signed me, when he got to that reveal at the end, like he screamed and he dropped his iPad. And like that's the visceral reaction you want from a reader.
That's great.
To get some sort of a response is like insane. So but that was actually accidental in the construction of the narrative. Like I just called him Ted throughout the story, but I never intended it to be this big Kaiser Soze moment, because the real twist is the emotion of admitting his guilt, because we always talked about that hacksaw moment as the I love you moment. It's the first time he's honest with her. She's trying to ask him, what's the truth, Ted, the entire movie. It's the first time that he gives it to her. So that was how it was all constructed. The reveal it's Ted part that was just kind of a happy accident along the way. But that was, I think, one of the big reasons why the script went around and made such a big deal.
How much creative control do you try to maintain in your writing, or do you let it go? Can you share and let it go once it's made? You're like, all right, do what you will with it.
You have to. You have to. I mean, in the case of this movie, I didn't sell it until literally like the day before we shot day one.
Oh, really?
So in that case, I maintained like veto power over who was involved.
That's cool.
Wow.
That was by design, but it wasn't because I didn't trust anybody. It was just the circumstance of that particular project.
That's rare for a writer, right?
It's only rare if you can say no. I mean, if you can't say no, no. I met with this producer Michael. I still remember this meeting. It was the 5th meeting of the day. I was tired. I was sick. Like I didn't want to go, and we just hit it off. And I really liked him, and I believed that he believed in the project. He was offering no money, but he was also making no promises. And I just really respected that. And so I'm like, all right, let's do this. And together, to his credit, he kept me in the loop and really treated me like a partner. We went to every meeting together. We discussed every decision. By the point that we got Zac and Joe and the money, like we were doing it.
Of course.
I found that you really want to choose your teammates wisely. You want to align with good producers. a director who shares the vision. If you want to maintain the integrity best you can with the work, it's who you align yourself with.
So do you write a script and then kind of like submit that or leave it alone and then move on to other projects, or do you push that mostly one script at a time? Like how much is it I'm just like spreading my eggs in different baskets?
Yeah, it's a delicate dance because you don't want to just like send it out and abandon it and hope for the best.
I hope someone likes that. Anyway, next one.
At the same time, there's a point where you start to understand people are either responding to it or not. In the case of that script, it just had such a fan club that even once we stopped pushing it. When I say we, I mean my producer Michael Costigan and I were kind of like teammates on this from the very beginning. At a certain point, we get busy and we're both working on different things. Well, there was still, in this case, there was agents at CAA, Zac's agency, and Joe's agency, the director, who had always been fans of this script. And any great agent has like a mental list of projects that it was the one that got away or the one that should have been. Oh. And for whatever reason, this was something that they never forgot about. And it came up in a meeting one day, and it just kind of worked out like that. There is a tremendous amount of luck and good timing that's involved in any movie that comes together ever. I'm convinced of this now. And for whatever reason, the world was ready for that movie at that time. And I think that's how it happened.
Did you catch that Lakers show on HBO?
I did, yeah.
Winning Time?
Yeah.
They got in trouble from the Lakers organization, right?
Yeah,
a little bit.
I think so.
For portraying the real guys, Jerry West and Pat Riley and so forth. Did you ever catch any flack for portraying anybody if it wasn't extremely factional, like a fact, but it just suited the story better?
Not that I'm aware of. I mean, we had Liz's participation.
Oh, okay.
She was consulted as we were ramping up to make the movie. She read several drafts and gave her inputs, and Joe was in contact with her. But as far as real events, I can promise you there's like a team of lawyers that are vetting all that stuff.
I just want to relate that last question to Lost Girls, because that was based on real events, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And at the end of your films, you have a lot of like real life, like current, like what's going on, how is it related to history, how you prioritized calling attention to like actual victims or like true stories.
Yeah, that's a great question. So in the case of Lost Girls specifically, that was an interesting example because we lost Mary Gilbert in the middle of development of that project. So Mary Gilbert is the character that Amy Ryan plays. Right. So I was hired in 2013 to adapt Bob Kolker's book, Lost Girls. So I did extensive research, same thing as Wicked, read, watched, and listened to everything I could find about the case. Wrote many drafts of the script. We were trying to make it, and this tragedy happened to Mary Gilbert. Her daughter murdered her. As unfortunate as those events were, luckily our director Liz was able to personally meet Mary and her daughter Cherie before the events happened, and so we got their input into the story, and we made sure that they were aware of, these are our intentions. We want to present. We don't want to over sensationalize anything. We want to present the truth as it is. But yeah, when an event like that happens, or when there are survivors who are affected, we go to great pains to at least invite them to be involved if they'd like to be. You hope that you do justice to the memory of their memories of the survivors, and that's what we tried to do.
Are you now? Do you get a lot of offers to write more true crime stories? Are you kind of established as a true crime writer? A little bit.
For better or for worse. I mean, you get kind of pigeonholed based
course.
on what the last thing and the last success that you had was. So I sent a lot of true crime stuff.
Right.
And it's kind of, it always makes me laugh because I don't think of either of those movies as true crime movies.
Right.
I know
different.
Why people think that, but it's not the approach that I took to those or any movies. I always think of genre as secondary. It's really a character story.
Right.
But to answer your question, yes, I get sent a lot of that stuff, and I do ultimately want to just do whatever,
Why do you think people are so interested in true crime? I've been trying to figure this out for a long time.
I think there's some sort of weird voyeuristic pleasure from seeing aberrant behavior in society. I mean, I think I think people are interested in things that are wrong and weird and illegal, and getting to witness that from a remove, whether it's reading or watching something. Uh-huh. It's interesting because I wrote Extremely Wicked before like the true crime renaissance. This was the Jinx and all that stuff had yet to come out. Serial, the podcast, had yet to come out.
Uh-huh.
And it's kind of cool to see now there's prestige true crime.
I don't know if true crime is like a new topic or new genre, because there's always been like Penny Dreadfuls and like back in like cowboy days, outlaws. Like we've always been fascinated with people who like go against the norm, you know, anything that goes against the norm.
Long lineage. I mean, I think back to like the great noir movies of the 30s and 40s, and those kind of came from westerns from the late 1800s onwards.
This probably had something to do with kind of a more advanced look at true crime, maybe.
I think storytelling in general, like whether it's TV or movies or whatever, is becoming more complex and interested in character stories. I mean, like we're in the golden age of TV, and that's all character.
Right.
And I think gone are the days where you're just writing like a procedural slasher movie or like a detective story.
Right.
There's only so many CSIs that can be on TV, and no knock against that, but like that's been done, and that's been done very well. And so now audiences are so smart now that they demand more. They're 6 moves ahead of you as a storyteller, and you have to respect that. And I think really that's the key to getting anything in any genre made, is to not dumb down the movie.
What was it like winning the Nichols Festival or Fellowship? Pardon me.
The Nickel Fellowship. It was amazing. That is what changed my life. I entered 29 times over 10 years.
Wow.
It was something that I just had started. I heard about when I was in high school, and every year I would send the maximum amount of submissions to. This was the first year in 2012 that I entered Extremely Wicked, and honestly, I sent it off and forgot about it, and I didn't really have a lot of high hopes. And I still remember like where I was when I got the news, and it was like overnight at that point, because people pay attention to that contest, especially in the industry. And it got the opportunity for me to get the script into people's hands, and the rest was dependent on their feedback to the script. You know?
It's amazing that the hustle between actors and writers and many people in this industry, it's a constant hustle. Like you just said, you would submit over 10 years. How many times?
29 times.
29 times over 10 years, And that's persistence. That's still doing it. You know, that's really
I think
cool.
you gotta have as many irons in the fire, you know, because you never know what's going to come back around. And in this business especially, most never come back. And there's still a lot of silence and a lot of rejection, no matter what level you're at. And the more kind of things you got going, personal projects, professional projects, whatever, collaborations, you never know what can come back around.
Do you collaborate well with other people, or do you prefer writing your own thing and then having it?
I like both. I like going away alone for a while until I feel like I've taken it as far as I can, and then it's crucial to have people that I trust to either give me feedback or, in the case of Extremely Wicked, Michael Costigan was a wonderful soundboard for me, you know, and feeling like you can trust certain people to tell you that sucks and you got to do better there. Or one really cool thing he said to me when we were in production, I was doing rewrites on the script and I took something a little too far, and he's like, one of my jobs is to protect the script from you. Because I've been working and living with it for so long, I started to get bored of certain things and forget what's working. And a good collaborator, whether it's a producer or a friend, whatever, can really kind of check you at times and be the person that will listen when you're having a crisis and you think the world's ending. So.
Right.
I like how much you're mentioning people are important, not just for your personal happiness, right? Surrounding yourself with good people, but creatively and with work. It's just like having a community is so important, especially in this industry.
When I was coming up as a writer, I had a writers group for a long time. Just these guys that I met along the way from various classes and online and whatnot. Like there was forums back in the day that you meet these people, and we met literally every week for years. And that was so helpful to not just have the camaraderie of it all, but you're getting feedback on your own work. You're held accountable to them week to week. You bring in pages or you waste your time. You're also diagnosing their scripts, and a huge part of the job of a writer is coming in as a diagnostician on other people's projects to say, this is what's wrong and this is how I'd fix it and this is why. When you're talking about story with people that you grew up idolizing, you don't want to back down and roll over for them, but you don't want to be argumentative for the sake of being argumentative. So I think it's important to have been versed in healthy debate, and like with the writers group, we debated story a lot, and that was really fun, but it was really helpful in the long run. But it's the community that really kind of gets you through those lean years, the really rough years where you're working the job that you hate and you're doing all the things hoping that you're going to get to where you want to go. It's the friends and family you have around.
Who's your favorite person to work with and why?
My favorite person to work with?
Yeah, actor and do an actor first.
There was a really cool moment on Extremely Wicked. We were shooting the final big court scene. All the big name actors were there. We had 50 extras sitting out in the gallery. We were shooting the closing arguments of the trial. And the way it was originally scripted was just kind of one line for Jim, one line for Zac. And the director had this idea to do this big intercut to create a lot of momentum in the cutting style of the movie. And so that morning I had to write like a full page monologue for Jim and one for Zac. We were shooting Zac's, I think, after lunch, and I went up to the dressing room with him to kind of run lines. He had requested somebody to help him out. And so I got to go up there and help him with this monologue, which he'd just gotten like an hour earlier. We're going through the monologue, which I felt was pretty good, but there was some certain things that were kind of clunky coming out of his mouth, and we were trying to figure out the cadence and what to do. And all of a sudden, like, I feel this presence behind my shoulder, and it's John Malkovich leaning over, helping me with like the syllabic rhythm of the words, because he's a theater actor, you know, and like amazing. He knows what music sounds like. A very surreal moment. I kind of like left my body for a moment. It's like Zac's over here dressed like Ted Bundy, switching costumes. Malkovich is right here, and we're talking about the craft of writing. I'm like, dude, this is awesome. But yeah, that was a very crazy moment. I felt so fortunate to even be in that position. I think that was one of my favorite moments with an actor.
Woo! And we're back with our segment for this episode, Questions from the Beyond. It's a working title. It's really questions from behind the camera.
Yeah, or audience.
From executive producer Lilly O'Brien and executive producer Sebastian Segura.
Cool.
Executive producer Sebastian Segura had me ask, do you have any tips for writers that are breaking in or trying to break in now? Because we know a lot of those guys.
Absolutely. I mean, the best one is the most common one. It's just do it. I mean, you have to be honest with yourself that you're sitting down and actually putting in the work.
Right.
And, you know, I can't tell you how many writers I have known over the years that just don't do the work, and it takes a long time, and it sucks. If it's hard and it's not coming out, and it's you know, you feel dispirited, you're doing something right. You know, like that never goes away. And I would say, if anything, it gets worse as you keep doing it. So you got to really love the process, and it goes back to like falling back in love with why you're doing this, and believing in like a greater creative output, I suppose. You know, if you're just trying to like sell a script and get famous or rich, that's probably not going to happen, and it's not enough to sustain you over the long haul.
You have to love it.
So love it and just do it.
So if you get like a snippet of an idea, are you like, I know where I have to put that, so I'll like know where to find it later?
Sometimes. I think the more important thing, depending where you're at in the process, is just getting it down.
Okay.
And I found like if you get it down, and or if you have a good idea, it will come back if and when you need it. I think as long as you get it out somehow, whether it's in a journal or on your laptop, like it's there, and like it'll come to you if you need it.
Mm-hmm. I have like scraps of paper in my room where I'll pick up, I'll be like, hot dog pajama party, and I'm like, what was this joke? Yeah, and I don't remember at all. I'm like, okay, that's trash.
I have journals from my entire life, and like with like just random words and like fragments of sentences that like I can read and go straight back to where I was when I was 14 and what was going on, just from something that would make no sense to anybody else. I think if you had the memory and you externalize it somehow, then it could trigger it.
Right, but if it doesn't have some kind of external trigger, it's probably might be lost forever. Right?
Then it floats away sometimes. I mean, like a lot of good ideas come like just on the cusp of sleep, you know. I take a nap every day, and like as I'm like drifting off, I feel like I solved so many important story problems, and then like it's all gone later.
Yeah, you can write it down.
But it's also not. Like I think it's still there. I just don't consciously know it. I'm really starting to like trust the subconscious a lot more, and because I would always feel guilty when I'm not literally writing. Like I should be doing this. I should be making a better effort. Blah blah blah. But you always are. Like I think especially if you're writing a feature script, like you have to get so obsessed with it that it's always in your thoughts, even if you're not literally thinking about it.
Young writers looking for managers and agents, what kind of worked, what didn't? When you had all these meetings, you met all these people, what gave you kind of like an off vibe, or what clicked that you were like, I really like that, which is kind of tied into the same thing with collaborating with other creative people. What are the traits that you're like, that's a trait that I really like and admire, that I would want part of my team, versus like these things kind of rub me the wrong way and maybe we're not a good fit?
A general meeting is a lot like dating. You sit down and you have like almost like a gut reaction to like, is this going to work or not? And I think you listen to those instincts like right away. As far as representatives go, are they excited about you as an artist? Like do they like your voice? I think that's really important, and you get a good vibe from the people you click with and those you don't. And the people I clicked with were just really polite, nice, genuine people. And particularly in the agency business, like it's so much about sales, and you want somebody who is aggressive and can be a shark, but there is a way to do that I think is appropriate, and there's a way to do it that's off-putting, because they are literally representing you. They're calling people on your behalf. They're submitting on your behalf.
Right.
They're talking you up. And you want someone that not only you like, but that other people like too.
What did you see most in the meetings that you took after winning the Nichols?
Oh!
And, like, what, if anything, did you see the most of that you didn't like?
Well, what I saw the most in all those meetings that I liked was that most people are well-intentioned. They're smart. They want to make the best movie, find the best TV show. They want to excel in their job. You know, that kind of ebbs and flows depending on where you're at in your career. But and I think if you go in with a good attitude and you yourself kind of show up in a personable way, is half the battle in these meetings, because writers especially are very introverted. They can be very shy and have social anxiety, but it doesn't mean you have to walk in and act like somebody that you're not. I think as long as you're happy to be there and you're happy that you have the opportunity to talk to these people, typically the meetings go off in a pretty exciting way. And to not walk in expecting anything out of it. You know, if you're lucky, something could come out of it. You never know. Like, I've had awesome opportunities come out of general meetings. I've also had opportunities come years later after meeting somebody and having had no contact, but we had like a good connection, and they remembered that funny thing that you said about what you're interested in, and then all of a sudden they have a project about it, and they call you up. It's amazing how certain things that seem so inconsequential in the moment come back around in a big way later on.
And yeah, the same thing with auditioning, that you might not be right for this role, but if they liked you and what you did, they'll remember you for something else later, you know what I mean? Like years later.
Our equivalent version of auditioning is pitching, and that is horrendous, but it's a necessary evil. And you're right, the people that are being pitched to are really hoping that you do a good job. They don't want you to screw up because they're just as uncomfortable and embarrassed as you are.
So Hollywood's not that cutthroat, people are out to use you kind of place. Mostly people are good. Mostly people are...
I think on the individual level, case by case, like for the most part, people are good people.
Cool.
As a business, it's a business. And people not only want to be successful, they need to be successful. A lot of the people that are in the position to hire you or to champion you to their boss who can hire you are on the chopping block, if, especially in writing, if they're cutting a check and this thing doesn't work out. They don't mean anything personal to you as far as rejection or giving feedback or whatever it may be. They're just trying to do their job the best way they can. And likewise, you have to uphold your responsibility in the situation too. And that's, you know, being a professional. It's as simple as anything in life. It's work hard and be good.
Right.
It comes down to that.
What role did you play in building the team related to the script?
It was two different scenarios. Extremely Wicked, like I said, I technically maintained control all the way to the start date, which doesn't mean like I exerted authority over like any part of the process. It just means that like I had the option if I had to. But I didn't, because then it goes back to being with the right people. I think we cast the crew appropriately. Lost Girls was a little different because that was a work for hire. It was a project that I brought to the studio and sold to them, but you know, once they paid me, I was their employee basically. I was there if and when and as frequently as they needed. And sometimes it was long months of they don't need anything, and sometimes like you're doing 3 phone calls a day and turning pages around. It just kind of depends on where you're at in the process. They were both awesome, and I wouldn't have done anything different with either of them. And again, I think it's knowing where you are status-wise in the rung of personalities, and knowing what your function really is. Is it something that you're shepherding because it's your passion project, you haven't accepted compensation, or is it something that you're working in a team and have been compensated and trying to make the best thing? So,
how did you feel coming out to LA? And
I had a plan. I mean, like I said, I came out here to go to college, so like I had the college experience. Like I was a good student, but I had fun in college, and I had a lot of great friends, and the social aspect of college, I think for me, was like one of the best parts of it all. And I think a lot of those people I'm still friends with to this day, and some are still working in the industry. I was not a film major, but like a lot of my friends were, and those are the people that are hiring, firing, and working and collaborating with you for ideally the rest of your. But yeah, I was a business major, and when it came time for graduation, I kind of knew in the back of my mind I wanted to write, and so I was going to take a job bartending, and that's what I did. I got hired to do that and have my days free to work on scripts and take meetings if and when I got them, which was almost never for like 10 years. But it was perfect because, bartending is the social component and financial component of an otherwise solitary life. So that way I could spend my days alone, being creative, doing the work that would eventually get me to where I needed to go. And then I would show up at the bar at night and it would be like a party and have fun. And like, you're paid to socialize and make friends.
How did you maintain the persistence to go, yep, this is still my dream and I'm going to keep bartending for as long as I need to persist?
I think I was too dug in at that point.
Okay.
I graduated with this delusion that like 3 to 5 years would be, I kind of treated it like a grad school. Like I just wrote. And I would learn all of this stuff and I would have samples to show. And I thought by that time something would happen for sure. And but it was very difficult. The older I got in the service industry, the less excited I was to talk about what I was doing behind the bar. It went from being like a romantic artist pursuing a dream to these are my feelings, but just feeling sorry and sad that I was pursuing something that may never happen.
Right.
When I wrote Extremely Wicked, I thought that was the last script I had in me. I remember talking to a fellow writer friend of mine saying like, I don't know what else to put into this pursuit, because that was my 13th script that I had finished, and that's...
Was it really?
Yeah.
The unlucky number 13th was Extremely Wicked? That's cool. That's interesting. That's so cool.
And that's after 20 abandoned attempts of other things that are like 40, 50 pages long and never finished. But I think there was like kind of a desperation and a resignation writing that script, which maybe freed me up to do better work. I've learned this lesson on 3 different projects in my career. It was something that I just felt on a deep level was interesting to me. Each of those projects, I just had this kind of like feeling. I can't describe it, but I just knew it was the right thing to be working on, that I believed in. And if I kept working on it, I hoped that it would turn into something. And it did. And nobody would have ever expected that. But I think if you're convicted and you believe in what you're doing, I think a lot of it is your own personal taste. You hope for the best, and that's all you can do. And
a really important question that I love asking people at like various stages in their career is, at what point did you figure out a healthy work-life balance where you're not burning out and getting critical and pushing yourself too much, and you're not appreciating the life you have to live? Did you figure that out? Are you still in that process of figuring that out?
Honestly, it took me a long time to understand the importance of that balance. I made a choice very early on that I was going to commit to this pursuit, this goal. When I was young, this was what I was going to do. I was in some great relationships throughout the years, but like I always knew in the back of my head that like this was priority number one, and I had to give it an honest shot before I was ready and willing to abandon it. Like I was too narrow-minded in how I was approaching things. I could have had a much more expansive life, I think, sooner than I allowed myself to. I think a fault of mine it would be working too much or too hard, or being too just mentally absent and always in story world, when really I'm trying to work on being more present with people. I don't think it's an either or, honestly. I think it really is, like you said, a balance. And it begins with like acknowledging what it is and that there may be problems here, and realizing you don't have to like suffer by yourself, or it doesn't mean that you're slacking off if you choose not to show up at the desk tomorrow morning or something. Worry about what's in your control, and the rest you got to kind of just let go and hope for the best, and trust that you're making an honest effort with what you can control, and I think that's how the best work turns out.
All right, Michael Werwie, thank you so much for being on our podcast.